well. So who could be a little bit of a timekeeper for me to keep track of time in case I want to be sure we have time for a closing and time for questions. So,
What time do we want to complete?
I've got my cell phone here. Can you hear me?
mhm.
I
So
have 12:06 right now.
yeah. Okay, so I think we'd like to complete about have it an hour or an hour to 15 minutes would be fine. Is everyone
Okay.
okay with all that? Lev, are you okay for that time frame?
Sure. Yeah, I was thinking sometime around 1
Yeah.
Eastern to be,
Perfect.
yeah, but I
Perfect.
don't have a hard stop.
Okay, super. So we can start taping now and I'll just welcome people. And so are you ready to go, Richard? And whoever will like to be unmuted, just unmute yourselves and whoever doesn't, don't.
We're recording right now.
Okay, super. So I just
Good.
want to thank everyone for coming today. My name's Judith King Matheson, and I've been very blessed to live in the Algonquin Sacred Territory in Ottawa, Gatineau, Canada, on the sacred Algonquin land that is the largest territory for the Algonquins in all of Canada. And I want to particularly thank all of the Algonquin peoples in this watershed on both sides of the Ottawa and Gatineau River, because I've been very blessed to sit in their circles and to learn a lot of their wisdom and ways of being in connection and relationship to each other and to nature and to the all that is. And so I think it's really time to really acknowledge and pay respect, my deep respect and personal thanks for the many teachers along my path, and many of them have been people living in this area coming from the Algonquin sacred ways of spirituality, where their ancestors have lived here since time immemorial. These are very powerful times, and they're times for people to come together in new ways. And I want to thank Richard Jackman for helping to make this call today and to bring us together as a group around a wonderful project we're doing with Owl Wellness Learning Center, which is about learning and living and healing and creating space in our own lives to begin to see the significance of the sacredness of life. And today we have a very special speaker who is a very, very wonderful man who brings a story that affected my life. And a little bit of life is about when the student is ready, the new teachers appear.
Mhm.
And I've been blessed to sit in the circles with the late William Commanda. And when grandfather William Commanda passed away, with his vision for his people, for this watershed, he passed on to people a powerful thing called forgiveness and inclusivity, and sitting in circles and listening. And in that process, when he made transition to the other side, I knew a new teacher would appear. And that new teacher was Barbara Marx Hubbard, an American visionary and teacher, who again I was blessed to train under for a project called Birth 2012. And again, when that project finished, I knew once again a new teacher would appear. And sure enough, that new teacher appeared, and he's with us today. And his name is Lev Natan. So thank you, Lev. It is such a blessing to have had you on my journey.
Hmm. Wow.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you so
So
much.
today, Lev is going to be talking about his story and who he is. He created, from my perspective, a wonderful healing center called the Medicine Tree Center for Healing Arts. And this center is a healing goal. And healing is the goal, and effectiveness is the criteria.
Hmm.
So as we go through life, we will meet many different teachers on our paths that help us begin to see that the journey forward is always about the healing aspect of all of us beginning to learn how significant life is and how stories are so important to our journeys forward to reach our full potential. So on the OWL website, we're going to be taking this program for other people to listen to Lev's story, so they'll become inspired to know that in their own story, there are teachers out there. And when they're ready, those teachers will appear. And the teachers come in real life or they come on this wonderful thing called technology. So, Lev, today we're going to be hearing from you a project that you're doing that speaks very much to my heart. And it's a project called Alliance for a Viable Future. And I'd love you to share a little bit of your story this morning as to what got you involved. First of all, that led you to be doing this work of service that is so close to your heart, to live your passion, to live your potentiality, to make a difference in people's lives so they can also live their potentiality. So I'd like you to give us a little bit of who you are and how did it start for you?
Well, thank you so much, Judith. It's really an honor, a privilege to be here, and also to see, the community that you're growing. And we're all leaders, you know, on the path. Leaders in the making, emerging and established leaders. And we need to be, each and every one of us. It's time to step it up. Whatever we're doing, there's an edge. I have an edge, we each have an edge to, wherever that place of it's a little bit scary. I need a little more courage to do something, but I feel like that's what I'm here to do. Well, then for each one of us, that's how I see it. That right now on planet Earth, that's what time it is. So I sort of had that feeling when I was growing up for some reason. I don't know why, but my mom would be driving me to school, uh, you know, and I'd be looking around at the cars and everyone that was in their own car, and just feeling like something was off. Like it didn't all add up. It didn't make sense. It was kind of like I was just, you know, a little bit comatose, like listening to the radio and have my big winter coat on. It was just kind of like sleepy, and it there wasn't an aliveness. And then, my dad, he played a lot of jazz music in the house, so he really loved Black culture. And then we got into tap dancing actually through that. So there, like, we would go to the tap dance studio and walk down the stairs. It was in an old bowling alley. So you walk down into the basement on the main street in Brookline, Massachusetts. And I grew up in Boston, the Boston area, Jamaica Plain, and this was right near there. And it would say Tapper's Paradise and all these beautiful colors, when you walk down the stairs. And then on the wall, right when you turn the corner and you saw where, the old bowling alley was, and it was like all filled in with, a wood floor. But then right there, you would see this, I would see this wall filled with all the greats, the elders, the teachers in the tap dance tradition. And there's what I learned is there's tap dancers, and then there's hoofers. And everyone on the wall, they were hoofers. Not, it's not Broadway shuffle ball chain. It's zap, like real and Sammy Davis Jr. It was called Leon Collins Dance Studio, Gregory Hines, Sandman Sims. These are names that meant something to me. And so it gave me a great deal of respect also, and reverence, real reverence. These were kings and queens on the wall. Diane Walker, she was one of my teachers. And so that was a big difference. The reason I'm saying that is because I had right now we're really confronted in America, in the United States, excuse me. I know it's North America. In the United States, in particular, right now, we're confronted with the renewal of awareness of how real racism still is in this country. So, that's kind of how I grew up, though, with a completely different view of Black people. That they had this incredible culture, and then from there, it naturally connected me with social justice. And my dad, he gave me a few books. At a young age. Satchel Paige was a baseball pitcher. He said, "Don't look." His book was "Don't Look Back. Something might be gaining." And anyway, from there, I got Malcolm X's writing as well at a very early age. And so it really just opened up that awareness of, whoa, what are we doing here on planet Earth? Why do we treat each other like that? Or why are some people treating other people like it's just, it kind of boggled my mind. I couldn't, and really uh, left me speechless in my heart. What is going on here? And then that led me to learn about apartheid in South Africa in college, and even in high school I got involved in community organizing, with youth organizing as a young person, in the city of Boston. So then I also love music, as I was saying, and then I love going camping. When I was a kid, we would go camping in Vermont, only about an hour from the Canadian border. Up, we would take day trips to Montreal, so up in that area, and that was like the most joyful memories that I had as a young person. Just being outside in nature and just enjoying those simple things. So all those things kind of have been weaving themselves together for me. Those things that I love and care about. And so then I started doing anyway, long story short, I started doing coaching work, and really I connected actually with an Algonquin teacher. Uh, it's about 15 years ago now. After college, in my college years, I was studying all of these kinds of things: social justice, ecology, and my major ended up being called human ecology. So it's just like, how do we move forward in these times? That's what I was curious about, more than curious, I would say, quite determined. And it brought me to the indigenous wisdom, those questions of music, spirituality, nature, and justice. So then after college, I ended up meeting this teacher. He called himself Hawk's brother. He lived in upstate New York in the Hudson Valley, and his ancestry was Algonquin, as well as other I think he had some Italian in him as well. But he was also the medicine chief for the Quinnipiac Tribal Council in Connecticut. So anyway, I studied with him for about 6 years. Shamanic healing, and just how to see things, from a different perspective. And we had a lot of long conversations, in a informal setting. And actually, one of the first times I met him, we were doing some journeying work with a drum, and he led us. And I saw this vision, while we were just sitting there meditating, of old growth trees sprouting up all around the world. It was kind of more involved in that, but that's where it ended. Is these trees started growing up, big old ancient trees up out of the earth everywhere. In the cities, and not in a destructive way, like just in this beautiful way, and reestablished really a telepathic field of consciousness and resonance, where humans remembered what we're doing here, or in some ways it's like a future remembrance, is kind of how I'm thinking about it now, that I've thought about that vision that I had. Yeah, and so that vision was in about 15 years ago, is when I met him. And it's really guided me, this idea of this interconnected root system of relationships, and a sense of knowing and trust. And so that's really, as I've gone step by step, I've tried to bring that forward, and this alliance for a viable future is really, that's what's at the heart of it, is this belief that change flows through relationships at the speed of trust. So it only gets done, the work, the real work, the good work only gets done if we really trust each other. Sure, we can get work done, but it has the energy of the relationships that were present, whatever happens. And so, yeah, there needs to be a resonance in what we're doing, in a shared understanding, a shared commitment. So the alliance has just, really in the last couple of years started to take shape. And really the general mission is to generate Northeast climate leadership. So here in the Northeast bioregion, to really support, amplify, and generate climate leadership in communities, in organizations, businesses, religious communities. And so we're just getting started. Yeah, that's where we're at. I just said a lot there, so I'll just pause. Thank you. Oh, you gotta unmute yourself there, Judith.
Here we go. I'm out now. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. We're playing with a new system today, and you're working with an elder, and I just loved what you were talking about. As you can tell, I was resonating with a lot of what you're talking about. And what I love about stories is when a person's sharing their story, a lot of our own story is reminded, it comes up for ourselves as a truth. And I think there's nothing more powerful than sharing your lived experiences and the events that were, I would say, shaped and molded you to be the man you are today, because it helps the people listening that we can resonate that who we are today has been life experiences and different people on that path that we've met. And it's led you to be very deep in their core around social justice issues. And I loved your story as it related to the elders and the significance of the dancing and the music. And at a very early age, the child knowing there's something wrong with how we treat people, right? Why are we doing this to each other? So that story in life, it starts from a very early age where we're shaped and molded to begin to see that something in us knows better. There's an inner knowingness. And I think what happens when people keep along the path of life, sometimes that little child gets taken out of us and we lose that connection to the caring and the loving and the compassion that is part of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe ways of community and spirituality. And I remember a long time ago in William Commander's circles, the significance of being in a circle is probably what you were experiencing too, is when we keep listening to other voices, they help us to tap into our own voice, to the depth of our own pain or trauma that we've all experienced. So this alliance that you're now shaping and molding, because I think we are at a time in leadership. And as you so powerfully said earlier, we're all leaders. We gather because we know there's something that does not meet our eye, that we know we're all here to make a difference. And how are we going to shape a new alliance of beautiful souls coming together to have conversations like today? So tell us a little bit more about what the structure is and the non-structure, because I think we're between that circle, Indigenous circle way, and a little bit of the Western structure that we need as Western-minded beings, because we need a little bit of planning and conversations of how do we create a new viable future.
Yeah.
Where we're living.
Thank you. Yeah, that's an important distinction that you're making in a balance point of, the circle is alive and ever changing, and then the world that we live in, you need permits and you have to pay taxes and so on and so forth. So you need to have a structure in order to be useful. and of true service in a practical world. So the way things are evolving right now with the Alliance, there's two main projects, I would say, that we're focusing in on, and then there's just the kind of a conversation that we're tending. And so the most immediate way to kind of tune in and come join us around the fire, so to speak, is the podcast that has been going for about a year now. So I host a podcast with and I invite speakers to talk about these kinds of things, about what does it take to uh, live a committed life, a life that's committed to the common good, and that expresses itself in so many different ways. But there's certain themes and principles that guide us to not burn out, not to get discouraged to the point of falling off a cliff. Okay, you might get knocked down, but then we get back up. So like you're saying, it's important to have those conversations by the fire, so to speak, and then have our spirits renewed. So that's the podcast that we have. And then on a programmatic level, we just started last year, this past October, a walk for a viable future, and it's on it's in solidarity and in observance of Indigenous Peoples Day, which is in October. It used to be, and I'm saying it like that, it used to be Columbus Day here in the States, and there's a movement that's a few years old that I wasn't starting, but I heard about that a few years ago. And there was a story of kind of synchronicity where it made sense that this idea of a walk coming together and supporting and being in solidarity with the Indigenous Peoples Day made a lot of sense. So we did a walk here in the Berkshires. We had a nice community event, and the ideas of this walk is really to ignite our spirits here in the all around the world, but specifically I'm focusing on building relationships in the Northeast, in our bioregion. And so to have satellite events synchronized in every community on Indigenous Peoples Day, and over the course of the fall time, because it's a beautiful time in the Northeast in particular. I know I'm sure you guys as well have beautiful foliage, and it's a beautiful time to be walking outside, to honor the beautiful nature that we have. So that's what happened last year. We had maybe 5 or 10 different events our first year, simultaneously happening. Families went out for a walk in honor of Indigenous Peoples Day, to walk for a viable future. And this year, because of the momentum and the success that we had last year, I'm really focusing my energies on the Berkshires, where I live, in Great Barrington, to have a more significant event, and actually a series of events to, get local organizations and businesses involved. We have something called the Massachusetts Cultural Council. And so they have local cultural councils, and we've gotten some grants from them locally. So there's some momentum, there's some support in our region to have this happen. And there's also a mentor, an elder in my life who lives around here, who has relations with the Stockbridge Muncie, a band of the Mohicans, who their land is original land was Stockbridge, which is right outside of Great Barrington. So now they live in Wisconsin. They were relocated there, and so we're going to bring at least one teacher, Sean Stevens, back here for ceremonies and teachings for that day. And then we have other relationships with Native people that, so we want to, have teachers and ceremonial leaders come here to the Berkshires for this first one, or the second one. And also, through Zoom and online meetings over the course of the coming months, again, support other local organizers and other communities who feel inspired to get something moving in their community, even if it's very small. We just decided I was going to do it before COVID happened, and I had all these flyers ready to go, and then COVID happened, and I still have a stack of these flyers because I haven't really been able to see too many people. But I decided, you know what? After a few months, it just kind of kept bubbling up, like, hey, let's just do it anyway. We'll start small. And then this year, we're going to be able to go a little bigger. And the vision really over time is even to involve, like the ultra marathon community, and have a torch that gets run from community to community, lighting the local fires, because it's, I've been so grateful, and I owe a debt of gratitude to, indigenous people and Black people, and, cultures from around the world, to be honest, who have been very generous to me personally to support me in my journey, when I've been having really hard times in my life, and didn't know where to turn, and then was able to participate in ceremonies like Sweat Lodge and Sundance, and it really helped me a lot and continues to help me. So yeah, so I just wanted to share that, and just lost, I lost my train of thought for a moment there. So creating ceremonies, you think, well, that's not practical. Someone might think that's not practical. We need to change everything to solar and fossil fuel and all those things as well. And what I've learned in my life is it's the ceremonies that teach me to step up my game. And it's what gives me the real courage to do the things that I know that need to be done practically. So then that's one thing, is this walk, right? To build the relationships, build the trust, to have the ceremony that tells our bodies and our hearts and our minds, this is for real right now. Like,
And
we actually
walking together is key.
walking together into the future,
Oh yeah.
all of us,
Yeah.
we don't have the answers, but we know how to, we can walk, we can walk step by step. And like that, then the path opens, it's not like it's all figured out, and no one knows how it's going to turn out. And if you hear someone that thinks they know, there's people that are wise and that I listen to, but those people will say, well, here we go, this is a path that I think has something good in it. It's a path of life, but we have to walk together and trust and have courage. So then on the practical side of things, we're developing a climate leadership training for all those other things that are practical, for nonprofit organizational leaders and business owners, and community leaders, to come together in small groups and really go through a process of building trust within themselves, with each other, and with their networks, to go have an inquiry of what would it really be like to step up my game. What's the next level, and where's that place inside of me that matters, that I actually care. It's not like, well, I did the best I could. I'm doing everything, everything's, I live a politically correct life. It's like all that stuff right now is kind of needs to be, it put aside, and we have to. My sense is, the world's on fire. It truly is.
I have a friend that's written a book, actually an author of the book, The World is on Fire.
That's
In
the
fact,
title.
one of our next guests, Ian Francis, he's an author of many different books. And it's interesting because that's one of his books, The World is on Fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you see citizens, igniting the hearts of citizens at a spiritual essence to know that COVID is actually lighting the fires in ourselves to see differently how powerful it is to walk in nature. In the Ottawa-Gatineau region, more and more people are skiing and walking in nature. They're beginning to understand the significance of clean air, clean water, and what we're doing to the planet, we do to ourselves. And so the walking together, igniting the hearts of people to walk forward together, that's a ceremony in itself. And I love your language around ceremony, because Indigenous people knew for thousands of years, in order to have a strong, healthy community, you needed to have people having ceremonies, because we have emotional, physical, spiritual, mental issues. And to have healthy community, we must walk together. We must be in a circle together. And the drumming that you're talking about, and the different smudges and the ways that the Indigenous know, how do you help the human being to be completely whole in the journey through change? We're going through change now. All the citizens of the planet are in change.
Yeah.
And that transformation is happening because we're being nudged. We're being nudged to do these wonderful creative projects that you're talking about and bringing people together beyond COVID.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful, wonderful way to see that we're being nudged to do something new and to be creative.
Yeah.
We were just talking earlier about how important it is when we're being creative and we're creating, we're tapping into a different energy.
Yeah. 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 The spiritual thought there is, some people say the creator. They when they pray, they say the creator, and then be creative is to be in relationship with that, whoever that is. We don't have to get into a theology about it, but there's a life force that animates us. And then there's I was reading a book by Gabriel Cousins. He's becoming a mentor of mine in through his writing, and he talks about the culture of life and liberation, and then the culture of death and destruction. And it's important to have those distinctions, because it's important. It helps us to see reality more clearly. Yeah.
And the power of choice.
Yeah.
The late grandfather William Commanda had a wonderful vision for all the people of this watershed and all the citizens of Canada and the world. And his vision was for the creation of an international Indigenous peace healing center on Asakapa Island, known as Victoria Island in Ottawa. And he could see that we were going to go through climate change. And the world needed the voices and the wisdom of the Indigenous elders to come to the island. And as history has done, Algonquin people were always welcoming people from all over North America to this sacred land, to bless and give thanks to the Chaudière Falls and to Creator and to the all that is, for the nature that gave them a way of living in harmony and peace, as people that were nomadic peoples. So if you looked at all of our stories, all of our histories, no matter where we come from, we all come from nomadic people. Before industrialization, that's what we were coming from. Learning to be in communities where we all were able to move in the seasons and be able to be in connection, relationship with the land. So this going back and walking in the land and getting people to be invited to connect with each other and the land is so important. To the story of moving forward, to remember that a lot of who we are as human beings are people that need to begin to remember what our ancestors were doing.
Yeah.
And we've lost some of that.
Yeah. And that's connected to that metaphor of the tree there, like the
Huh?
trees that grow up is, people say, oh, well, why should I, spend all my time thinking about the ancestors? Because, well, if you think about it like a tree and you're not looking back, it's what allows you to take a stand.
Mm,
That's what's because you have roots and then
mhm,
you can have branches. Without the roots, you don't have any branches. And so that's something, many years ago, you know, I had started to think about is, well, if we need to learn, if we're going to learn how to take care of each other and the earth again, or to at least do no harm, which is not where we are now, then we need to learn or relearn the how to listen and understand the language of the earth. So that's where I
mm,
started to get into who knows how to do that, those shamanic uh, traditions. And so like that, then the idea of going and sitting in nature and listening, and doing vision quests, which the spiritual leaders of all peoples, my ancestors, Jewish people, Moses and even Jesus, right? They went and sat for 40 days, and probably, Moses was a shepherd out in the wilderness, so he was listening all the time. Um so that's something, I'm really grateful. Just like you had mentioned, the Medicine Tree Center. It's a work in progress, and now my family, we just bought some land last fall, so it's just a new thing that's going to be happening in the next couple of years. Being able to create uh, a place for people to sit quietly and do that listening work, that deep listening, listening deeply to their hearts within the context of nature. Doing vision quest is how I understand it, how I'm being trained. And my sense is that there's something really important there in terms of that courage piece, and that sense of kind of getting out of our own way and realizing we're all just ordinary people, and it's not a big thing. Oh, I'm this, I'm that. But we need to allow that life to move through us and to say, this is what you're here to do, and to take it to the next level and listen and have faith in that life force. And for me, having those experiences out in nature, and and having some experience of sacrifice, letting go of food and even water for a certain amount of time, even if it's just a couple of hours or a few hours, or a day or a few days. um, those experiences, it's challenging. It's a mini ordeal, but it's what trains us, our minds, our emotions, our nervous system, our spiritual body, to then deal with the real ordeal that's all around us. There's a training that's necessary for us to step it up. And it's also only if for those who are called. Everyone's called in different directions, but for me, that's how I was called, and it makes sense, and it's been helpful, because I was having a hard time finding my feet underneath me, through my 20s and 30s, and now I'm towards the end of my 30s, and finding my feet under me through those waves. That's what helped me. So that's what I want to, support others to connect with that courage, and then
and
also oh, go on.
get, get rooted and grounded.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and then also flexible,
Yeah.
um, can sway in the wind and the hurricane of
Mhm.
life. And then, yeah, to have those circles like you're saying. I'm doing more men's work now, in small groups with men, especially because I'm a man, and and supporting men to navigate these times intelligently,
Mhm.
and to, you know, walk their path of being change makers. So it's like to have that consistency, accountability, and you know, a space that can hold a man through a personalized rite of passage experience, you know, to step up into their new level of life, you know, their lead, so that they can lead their life forward. um, so that's something that I do in my coaching work, and it's all interconnected. um,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. In fact, that's what I find that I find so wonderful about people like yourself with your story. Being present to other people going through the storms of life is so important for people to have a mentor that can hold space for them. And I think there's nothing more powerful than holding circles for people to be together, to help everyone get that rootedness so we can begin to relate to nature, that we are nature. When our spirits are ready to soar back to spiritual world, our physical bodies go back to the earth. And once we can begin to experience that beyond the pain and trauma is something deep in our core that is nudging us forward to the always more of remembering who we really are as spiritual beings. And we live in such a discombobulated world right now where Western materialistic ways of living is extremely intrusive to health and wellness. And on the call today, one of my friends is a holistic nutritionist. So I think a lot of leaders are beginning to see that the main job I have to do, and I can just speak for myself as an elder, but at age 77, caring for myself is absolutely imperative as a space holder, because you get to an age, you have had the experiences. If you've been blessed, you have a lot of people on your path that have helped you to shape and mold who you've become at this age, which is not who you were, as you say, in your early 30s. So you have this wonderful capacity to look back, to hold the moment now in this present moment, to begin to see there's new ways people can now weave through the new, because now we can see what we were doing. But if we can't see what we're doing, we can't change the new future that's emerging for all of humanity right now.
I wonder if we could maybe cut into questions and answers.
I would love it. Thank you so much, Richard. That's what I was leading right up to. And so what I'd like you to do now is hold space right now for people to take turns asking me some of the questions they might want to offer. And I was leading up to inviting the Evas to start first as a holistic nutritionist, because I think she might have some comments to start us off. So Nieves, are you there? So maybe she's gone away right now.
No, I'm here. Hello, I'm here. I'm listening. Yes, I'm listening all the time.
So your neighbor, she's in the States as well, Lev.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lev. And yeah, we're all doing, like you say, leadership work. Definitely in my role, as Judith said, is I am a holistic nutritionist, health coach. I don't like that name. I prefer more the Canadian name, which is holistic nutritionist. So I teach people about healthy foods and healthy lifestyles. And just now, I am just about to teach a workshop in Zoom called The New Paradigm of Eating. I love the name because we need a new paradigm of everything. Of everything, you know, relating to each other, to the land, to the environment, like, you know, to everything, because as we all know, nothing has worked so far. But we're still on time to be able to change things. There are a lot of people right now in this opportunity of this COVID, that people have stopped all the rushing around, and then people were able to gather themselves and realize, wait a minute, what is the meaning of these? What is that? I don't like that. I'm going to change that. So there's a lot of good things going on. And I want to contribute with my, my part, and teach people about the importance of eating in a new, whole different way that we have not been taught. We thought that what we have been doing was the way to do it, which is fine. But now, we have other ways, and we have good information. And like I always say, this is my information. Don't believe anything, but if you want to give it a try, then we can see what happens. What happens. And anyway, that's my contribution to the whole thing. But yeah, happy to be here. And thank you.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
Nieves is in her way taking people back to nature with eating good, healthy.
True. Because human beings, we are part of this earth, of the Pachamama, the Gaia. We are from here, so we need to go back to nature. That's the ways of nature is how we heal everybody, the planet, ourselves. And one way of doing it is by, becoming healthy and eating healthy.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that your title as well, the new paradigm. And it reminds me of a phrase that I've been using a lot of whole systems paradigm shift is the way
Whole
that we're
shit.
focusing with the alliance is it's a whole systems paradigm shift that's necessary. And your focus here is in food. In a sense, it's connected to agriculture then, right? The shift
Yes,
that's necessary there.
but more as food as medicine.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 And yeah, now it's interesting. You just said connected to agriculture. I never thought that, but you're right. It
Yeah,
is.
farming, right? How we
Yes.
that the food. I was listening to my wife is an acupuncturist or herbalist, and so we were listening to one of her teachers last night, and he was saying how important the probiotics are. And he was saying, in the old times, or even now, if you have your own garden, you have your own farm that's organic, and you build the soil, then you actually get the probiotics from the dirt
I'm
on
glad.
your lettuce, right? On the lettuce, on the vegetables, on the kale. And you eat a little bit, you maybe wash it off, but then but that's actual gold for your gut, for your stomach to heal.
Lots of
Yeah,
minerals.
Lev, that's really, really great that you said that, because when you first mentioned it, I thought, oh, okay, probiotics, you have to go and buy them. No, I also teach that, Lev. I teach, no, you don't need to go and buy them. You need to, and for people who don't have land, they can grow, they can sprout seeds, and then you get your probiotics from the sprouts.
Yeah.
So that's great. Yeah.
Powerful. I wish we had about 3 or 4 hours today. Lynn or Sylvia, who else would like to speak? Richard. I guess Richard's not. Anyone else?
Hold on. No, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, so it's funny. I was on a call last night and listening to, and I don't pretend to be the brightest person in the world, but I try to be informed. And they were trying to do something, and they kept going back to the politicians. And on this call, the guy who was facilitating it's a pretty senior guy, worked for Microsoft for years. And he, at one point in time, he looks at the screen, he says, they promised us whatever when they were running for election, and then they completely forgot about it after they got elected. And I'm sitting there looking at him, and I'm thinking, listening, I'm thinking, well, what is it that surprises you in all of that? Let me throw something out, which I don't want to be just the spoiler, but because I love everything that's been said. Peter Webb, who some of us know, is a local guy who's been a farmer all his life, is an energy guy, said this, and it's been validated in other forums. It's something that we need to be considering. I don't know how. I like the idea of the alliance. I'd like to know more about it after this meeting. Is that if we continue to use crop poisoning chemicals on our land,
Yeah,
we will not be able to grow anything in North America within 60 years or less.
absolutely.
So, and I bumped into a video narrated by Woody
Harrelson. What is it? Kiss the Soil?
Kiss the soil, kiss the ground, kiss the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he says that, I think he says that in there. Now, the reason I'm raising this is I think I think we need separate divisions. I obviously am in a division which goes to that aspect, and I want to challenge the thinking. It also is an important element in terms of reducing the carbon in our atmosphere.
Absolutely.
It's essential if we don't do that. But how many people know about it? So I'm just throwing that out. I think you know, definitely I'd like to have a private conversation after, and I'm doing my own thing. I think what you're up to is great, and I would like to. I don't know where Lynn is. Get off. I will stop talking. But I do think these are the practical aspects. I'm a problem solver, right?
Yeah.
A legal background. Oh my
Thank you.
God.
Well, that's great, and that makes me even more excited to share that you have a legal background. One of the other projects that I didn't mention that the Alliance is supporting, and it's really, you know, it's, you know, when you start something, you have an idea of how it's going to go, and then life unfolds, you know, and so a couple 2 or 3 years ago, I was playing a podcast for my wife as I was driving. We were driving somewhere. I don't remember why. I was like, it came up in conversation. I said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to play this for you." It was a lawyer named Thomas Lindsay, who started an organization called the Center for Democratic and Environmental Rights. And he was part of another organization before that, but he's one of the founders of the Rights of Nature movement, which is something that we're have gotten involved in locally here in the Berkshires. It's an international movement. Have you heard of it, Richard?
No, I haven't.
It's an international movement. You can go to their website, Cedar excuse me. Yeah, nice. I don't know that, but who wrote it?
David R. Boyd.
Okay, I guess I have to read it. That's awesome. Yeah, I've been so yeah, I heard you know, Thomas Lindsay, he's got podcasts. He's been on Bioneers a number of times. But the biggest thing that's inspiring to me about that movement is in Ecuador in 2008. He helped the national government add an amendment to their national constitution for the rights of nature. And really what it boils down to is what electrified me about that podcast, which I'd heard years before and then I never forgot, is he said, we don't have an environmental movement in the United States. We do not have a environmental movement in the United States, because it's like when you think about the civil, I'm not as eloquent as he is, but when you have it's as if an abolition movement, right, to abolish slavery has a slavery protection agency. Say, we can't give when we whip the slaves, we can only whip them so that the lashings go an inch deep but not deeper. That's what happens in with our environmental regulatory law. And so the constitutional laws of the rights of nature are saying that rivers and mountains and ecosystems are not property. they are commonly stewarded as living beings that have rights. And
Yep.
it's a movement as absurd to the modern mind as the abolition of slavery was. I don't have the dates when that happened, and it was passed. The abolitionists were crazy in the thinking of that time. And so we might say, to people who have put that forward about nature, that's absurd. It's absurd. We have property. Property is the way things are. It's absurd to think that the river has its own rights. Well, you know it's amazing to have the support of this movement that's already been passed in Ecuador and a number of countries in the developing world. And then here in the United States, there's over 36 municipalities, including the city of Pittsburgh, has passed it into their municipal constitution in order to protect themselves from hydrofracking. And the most recent victory is in Florida, of all states. Can you imagine? In Florida, Orange County, millions of people. There's more than 1 million people. That county won rights of nature into their legislation by 89% of the vote, because of the amount of toxic material that's in the water supply there in Florida. No one can swim in Florida anymore. So just wanted to say that on a practical level. So that's what we're working on here in the Berkshires and Great Barrington. We have a 15-month campaign. We're going to bring it forward, really as a community organizing effort, as an alliance building effort. And it's tricky. It's there, there's a lot of real life questions that go into that. People's livelihoods are at stake, but we want to make it as much of a shared vision, and to support people to make the transitions that need to happen. I'll just close with one more thought about that. Is if you listen to a 30-minute speech by Justin Winters, who's the executive director of the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation. I wasn't aware, but he's been an environmentalist since he was young. The Hollywood actor Leonardo DiCaprio. So he has a foundation, and he put forward a number of years ago a One Earth project. And Justin Winter she's the executive director. She gave this talk at a Bioneers conference. She said these are the 3 things that need to happen without negotiation by 2050 in order for us to keep or to reduce our temperature, and to draw down the carbon out of the air to 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is non-negotiable. That's the clear-headed science that, most, God willing, more and more of us will be able to have that lucid, understanding that that's what needs to happen. How to do that? She said 3 things. It's very simple. Simple is not easy, but it's simple. Number 1, 100% shift to renewable energy in the world by 2050. Number 2, 100% shift from conventional agriculture, like you're talking about, Richard, to regenerative agriculture. Stopping all use of pesticides and fertilizers that run off into rivers, and building soil, all the regenerative organic practices that we know work. And number 3, 50% of all land in the world in conservation for biodiversity and wildlife. 1, 2, 3. That's what needs to happen according to their leading edge science. And then you can also look towards, Paul Hawkins' edited book, Drawdown, and the Drawdown Project, which is an incredible, it's the leading thinking in how to reverse global warming, and they have over 100 projects, and they have great resources for communities about what's actually working and there's no question what's working. There's so many things that people are doing to draw the carbon out of the atmosphere, and what the Alliance is about is great. We want to integrate all that information, that practical information, and put it into our communities, and make it happen, because it's one thing to know, it's another thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
And
Richard.
that's why Alliance for a Viable Future includes all of us. And getting the word out so people can walk together to have the actions we can take together. And it is about reframing the language, seeing that nature is a person. Rivers are people. And I think what we're beginning to see with COVID, we can see how if we can't treat people with care, love, and compassion, how will we ever get to the point that we can treat Mother Earth, as Indigenous people call her, in a healing manner? Because if we can't, we're not going to have a planet to live on. We'll become an endangered species.
Yeah,
And we
well,
are at Joyce point time.
would anybody else want to ask a question? Because we're heading towards an hour and 15 minutes.
Lori, you must have a question, Sylvia? Yep.
So of course I've been hearing not very nice things about wind turbine. So I guess I know solar is renewable energy. What other sources, if we didn't go with the windmill turbine?
Well, I'm not an expert. That's not my area of expertise. But
Okay, well,
yeah, I guess I would defer you to the or refer you to that book Drawdown.
Okay.
There's the technologies are always evolving. And then we can get into the other side of things with free energy and hydrogen, water energy, and that's really very political in some ways, but really I think it's all connected to ethics, truly, and our capacity to, because it's ultimately it's power. Electricity, energy is power, and we need to, as a collective, as a culture, in order to harness clean power, we have to be clean on the inside and pure. And we're in the mess that we're in because when we get involved with fossil fuel, and it's connected to destruction in regards to our ethics and morals. So that's a whole nother tangent, but there's a parallel there in terms of how we live. So I don't have the answer for you in terms of which I'm going to put solar panels on my roof,
right?
But we need to be designing technologies appropriate technology for the place, and with principles of life in mind.
Well, I certainly am all about EMF, making a decision on what's that going to look like. And I understand that is certainly a lot of EMFs coming off those turbines, as well as impacting the birds and even the eagles. So certainly I don't feel like that's the right way to go. But and when are your podcasts?
They're not live,
Okay.
so they come out every couple of weeks on my newsletter. I send it out, and then it just comes up on iTunes and Spotify, and now I put it on YouTube also, the video. So yeah, you can just get on the email list. I send it out on the new moon and the full moon. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Tomorrow is a full moon, so
Yeah.
people that are maybe listening to this, it's very significant, the times that we're living through, to help people know how can they connect with that project, because my sense is where one person does a project in their own area, it plants the seed for others to do a similar project in their area.
Mm-hmm.
And we expand the circle of consciousness. And I think a lot of people are eager. They know they want to be part of bringing forth the new now, but we don't know how.
Mm.
And that's why these conversations are so important. Lynn, you're on the call, I believe still, are you? Because we're hoping to put the biography of people up on the website OWL at www.rootaway.wellnesslearning.com. And any ways that we can help people that hear this conversation down the road that go to this website, we need to have a clear message. How can they contact you to say, maybe learn how can they take some of the things that you're learning and actioning in your community that would be relevant to their communities. And that's the way that we'll grow this, like the trees we're talking about. It's a new cosmic tree of the sacred tree of life, which we all are called to be now from every tradition of spirituality. Ancient ones knew there would come a time where all that we're living through right now has been prophesized. And many of us really are in tune with an alignment of the new emerging. And we're learning like little children. We're part of that process now. We're all little students.
So Lynn has arrived. Lynn?
Yes, I received the link yesterday, I believe. And if you give me permission, I'll take your photo from there. I have to go back and look at it and then create a page that says probably our speakers, or we have to comment as a group where it's going to go on the website. So yeah, so it's still evolving.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. And there's no question that the conversation is to be continued, because there's some other things that I have on my mind. So I'm wondering if we can, Judith, kind of close up with Lev, but let's get him back sooner than later and go from there.
We can't hear you, Judith.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you're muted there, Judith.
Thanks, Richard. I just commenting, we haven't heard Lori's voice, and I really find that it's really important that everyone's voice is heard in the circle. So before we say adieu, Lori, are you still on the call, and would you like to ask a question or make a comment? Maybe she's gone.
Here she has.
Okay, perfect. Well, as long as we know that all the voices have been present listening, and sometimes I often say the greatest person in a circle is the space holder that listens. And I want to thank Lev today for articulating his passion and his conviction and his life journey of service, which I think will inspire everyone that's able to listen to this call to see we all are being ignited right now, to find that spark in our own hearts, to keep that journey forward in a positive way for all the future generations that we're affecting right now by our own lifestyle choices. And I would just comment as an elder, the most important thing we can do is to walk more gently with ourselves. And that sometimes is the key, because we shift our own energy and we affect the collective whole. And
Hello, can you hear me?
Lori's just shown up.
Wonderful.
I've just recognized how to unmute myself.
I've been
trying to say things various times, and it's always saying you're muted, and then it says press A Alt, and that doesn't work. I want to say hello, Lev, and Lynn, and Judith, and Sylvia, and Richard, and Nevs, I believe. I wanted you to spell your name because I'm very visual person, and is Nev still here?
Yeah.
Yes. Lori, it is Nieves.
Nieves, that's it, Nieves. Thank you. You know, it's a world of sound that's very new. First time for me. I've ever heard that beautiful name.
Thank you.
Anyway, Lev, I have a mat in front of my door that's the tree of life.
Mm.
And I, like you, was a very sensitive child that watched my physical abuse between my parents. And I, you know, took a compassionate voice towards both of them, and the dog that was affected when I'm 4 years old. My father kicked him and it ricocheted against the door, whimpering to the garage. I was a child of 4, where the still small voice guided me to heal myself of an earache while my angry, unhappy parents slept. So the spirit has always protected me and has brought me and delivered me into the company of fabulous leaders like yourselves, all of you. I thank Sylvia for phoning me to remind me the call was here, because I have been dealing with clearing off emails that I haven't talked to for 2 years, because I'm a writer and I've been very much finding my place, my new self. And I have this description that you know, I have to be very careful with the indigenous people, because they have been so hurt by the white man culture, and I'm deeply embedded in a language that Judith has guided me to speak in the semantics, so that people are open-hearted to the messages I have for unifying this place, our global village. And I'm very appreciative of your work, Lev, with the growing up closer with the Aboriginals. I had a very special experience with Judith inviting me to do the walk with the natives, with the Algonquins. And it was in June 22nd of 2018. I carried the Tree of Life with Peter Stringer, and I had a shimmering of the spirit all over me when the crows finished drumming. And I'm being led towards understanding and hearing more about the people that care for Mother Earth, because I'm very earthy. I'm a Capricorn. I'm a gardener, and I like eating probiotics, and I have been a teacher of nutritional cooking, but I'm now shifted by the spirit to create a high road that's going over a very dark, vast ocean, and I am part of a group of people that will not be seen by the world, but there's this light that comes out of this endless stream of light workers, each of us in our public and private sectors being connected to the East and the West, and the big, wonderful journey that we see of the communication in English, which is the most unifying of all languages. There's 6,500 languages in the world, and 67 of them are countries that speak English, that have started with the uniting them in the United Nations and the British Empire, and then India coming on board, unifying 22 languages with English. And now the Israelites and the Arabs are able to speak, because they wouldn't speak each other's language. They have adopted English as the unifying language for the East and the West, to begin this journey of what language do you speak? And it is from our heart. It has, whatever the language, it has to come from the heart. Mm. And so I really appreciate Lynn's effort to get our biographies on this new website. Thank you, Lynn. I want to know Lev's phone number and email, because I want private conversation with you afterward too. And I want you back as soon as you can. Thank you, Judith. Thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you, Lori, and thank you all. This powerful vision that Lev has always spoken to my heart, because I do believe that humanity as a time of one universal human family, beginning to learn how to work together as one. Mm-hmm. That vision for an alliance for a viable future includes all of us working with leaders like Lev to help us become the leaders we need to be in our own backyards.
Yeah,
And what
in our
we do
own
in our own
backyard.
backyards is what's so important. And in our own lives and our own families. And the human family is what's most important now. And we are a justice-driven culture now. We know the difference. And I want to bless and thank you all. Tomorrow is a full moon, and I want to just give gratitude that I'm turning 77 years old tomorrow. I'll be moving to my 78th year. And the world better watch out when the elders start to look after themselves. So there's hope for everyone.
Did you get your birthday card yet, Judith?
It's on the way.
Yeah, I sent you a card.
Oh, thank you.
It's got beautiful feathers all over it.
Oh, beautiful.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much, everybody. And what a blessing to know you all and to walk in the path of life where your love and your light shines through. And love, what a blessing to have met you many years ago and to have you on the program. And it seems unanimous. We would love to have you back again to keep creating this viable future that we're talking about in North America and all over the planet. And so we want to give thanks and gratitude to all our Indigenous spiritual leaders all over planet Mother Earth that are waking us up to see that we're all Indigenous. And to Lori's words, let's start living from our Indigenous hearts. Let's restore our own relationship to the earth and each other. And so it is. Would you like a few closing remarks, Lev, before you go?
Just thank you to each and every one of you who's here creating this community, and everyone that's listening. Yeah, just have a beautiful day, a beautiful week, a beautiful year. Moving ahead, you know, we have the wind at our back this year, so let's let's really care for this each moment that we have right now, and to prepare for the good work that we're doing, you know, to not take it for granted, this particular moment that we're in. So thank you so much.
And building on what Lev is saying, our next speaker next month, Lev, you might want to be able to hook into that speaker. It's usually at the same time once a month on Thursdays, just before the full moon. And our guest speaker is an author friend of mine, Susan Quito, and she'll be talking about her recent book, and it's so appropriate to our conversation today. It'll be taking place in March, and the book's name is Return to the Land. So she'll be speaking, and you'll see her biography on the website, OWL. So I invite everyone to keep following the conversations and tapping into the syrup of the tree, which is spirit. And like the syrup, we cannot see it, nor can we see spirit, but we're being guided now and invited now to feed our souls and rise up as one humanity. And bless you all in gratitude to everyone. Let's move forward, humanity. It's time to do that wonderful work.